Okay, sorry, the other audio cut out. But I'm just going to continue on because I liked what I said so far. So, anyway, tuning in to how we really feel and what we really need is crucial in this new level of what it means to be an empath. And when we do that, when we really are authentic in any given moment with what we feel, and we stop trying to teach and we stop trying to fix the other person, when we realize you can only do that, you can only really be in that level when you recognize that you are divine, your divinity, and that the other person is divine as well, even if we've forgotten it for a moment. And the minute you remember you're divine, the minute you embody that again, and you see that other person that you're talking to, not as a problem to be fixed, not as someone that needs your love, not as someone that is broken in some way, but also someone who is divine, another universe that you are relating to and co-creating with in that moment, you begin to reflect a clear picture of who they are, and that is how they see who they are. When we do that, we also don't create a false dependency, because when you just radiate who you are and see them as who they are, the real them, in all of what that means. So it also means the humanity, because we have, I think we have a hard time, like most humans have a hard time putting divinity and humanity together, because we've always been programmed to believe that humanity's broken and fallen and wrong and bad, and divinity is something separate than us, something outside of us, something external than us. But in reality, divinity is within us. Divinity, the kingdom of God is within us, as Jesus said, but divinity lives inside of us. It is what animates us. It's what gives us life. We wouldn't be able to breathe or see or feel or love or touch or smell or connect without that divinity. That is our life force. That is the line that we have, the connection we have to one another. And if we fail to see that in each other, then we live in a broken, quote unquote, broken world. That's that broken, fallen paradigm where we see ourselves as wrong and bad, and those sort of lower dimensional ideas about who we are, which in a sense are true if you're not seeing your divinity. It's not literally true, it's not actually true, but it can be true in a moment. It can feel true when we're not remembering the miracle and the divinity of what we are. And I don't mean that in a lofty way. I mean that in reality. Like, if you pause just for a moment, regardless of whatever chaos is going on, regardless of however scary the world may seem, and just realize, like, whoa, we are all divine creators. Like, we are all in some sort of weird life miracle. Like, we don't understand it. We don't know exactly what's going on. We don't know really anything for certain, but we know that we exist. And in that existence, we have like a plethora of everything you can imagine. And there is love here. Even though there's chaos and all these other things that we don't understand, but there's love. And there's people who love in spite of all of that. And it's sort of amazing when you stop and realize that, and that everyone is a part of that. No one is excluded from that. And I have found for me, in those moments when I remember who I am and allow myself to feel what I feel, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's, I don't really like this situation, but I'm being authentic to who I am and saying it's okay. I'm human and I'm also divine. And I have an endless source within me that can take care of me and that loves me and that forgives me and that knows that I'm on this journey of learning and becoming and growing and expanding. And just experiencing what it's like to live in contrast. When I have those moments of remembering that, even while maybe being in situations that feel uncomfortable or feeling things that I don't necessarily enjoy feeling, when I remember who I am, I can pause and be in the moment and sort of be in awe. I think that's what rapture is. I think that's what it means to be in rapture. And the more we can be in rapture, just awe about this experience, that means awe even about the contrast. It pauses us and we become a clear mirror in that moment. And when we do that, and we're not trying to fix anybody, and we're not trying to save them, and we're not trying to put ourselves up as like, oh, I'm an empath, woe is me, the world is against me. Like, when we stop doing that and just be who we are, all of it, allow it, Just recognize it in the moment. We become a clear mirror. And when we are clear mirrors to each other, that's when we remember who we are. That's when a whole different conversation can start. That's when we can begin to really be in the moment and feel, and not be afraid of what that means, not be afraid of what feeling the moment means, because we also understand that we're divine creators. So just because we can feel a lot doesn't mean we have to feel everything. We get to choose. Just as you can choose to eat an orange for breakfast or have oatmeal or whatever, you can choose what energies you want to delve into with your sensitivities. You don't have to be forced. Receiving doesn't mean you have to receive everything. You can still choose what you want. You get to sift through the contrast and pick what you want to choose. And for me, what I've found is I'm learning to ride the waves of vibration in terms of what I feel and opening up my sensitivities more. What seems to work best for me is when I just follow the allowing, oh, that feels good. Oh, that feels good. Oh, that feels, okay, that doesn't really feel good. Let me move this way, rather than being in a place of judgment. So there's a big difference between judgment and discernment. Being discerning is just oh, this is good for me. This feels good for me. This doesn't feel good for me. But it doesn't have a judgment to it, it's wrong or bad or evil. And now I'm going to go on a campaign about that thing and how bad and wrong and evil it is. Because when we do that, we're giving power to that thing. But with discernment is that's not for me. That's not what I want. So I'm going to go in this direction. Blessings to everyone else who is still exploring that path, because we all have free will. And there may be things that are not good for us, but for other people is somehow working. We don't know them. We don't know their biology. We don't know their physiology. We don't know what their life soul path is. We don't know anything about them. So when we get stuck in judgment, or again, as empaths, many empaths in old paradigm used to do, is try to fix them. Oh, this seems like a war zone area, so I must be needed here, and I'm going to go in here and try to fix everyone in this war zone area. Meanwhile, getting completely burnt out and practically dying. That's what many empaths have done in the past. And that's when we have the belief that we are kind of that savior complex, that we have to save everyone. And really, what I'm learning is that anytime I've done that, I actually make things worse. I may help people temporarily, but usually in the long run, I disempower them, or I end up getting so drained that it's not worth it to me. It becomes cancerous. So in this new paradigm, for me anyway, in understanding my sensitivities, it's keeping my sensitivities as keen as they possibly can be, and then following what feels the most, not just joyous, because it's not just about seeking pleasure all the time, but what feels the most interesting. Sometimes I like to feel things that are a little more dense because I'm learning, and it's ooh, this is interesting, and it's kind of my wizard comes out and I want to understand it, and it's like a riddle, and that actually feels good to me because it feels exciting, and it's part of that exploration and new inventions and innovation, that sort of energy. So it doesn't have to be I'm just only ever looking for bliss so I can ignore what's actually going on in the world. I don't, that's a different sort of bypassing, a different sort of spiritual bypassing, and that's not what I'm talking about either. I'm talking about just being authentic to your compass, what actually authentically feels good to you in any given moment, for as long as it feels good to you, for you to be feeling those things. And then as soon as it starts feeling overwhelming or draining, or it's depleting your energy, back out and go back to get recharged with source energy. Be in nature, use crystals, use essential oils, breathe deeply, exercise, eat healthy. All those sort of things help replenish our life force energy, and also helps our sensitivities. Another thing I've found as I've been exploring my my deepest sensitivities is that when I open my really keen sensitivities, I tend to not be hungry at all. I don't want to eat anything. And but what happens is then if it gets to a point where it's too intense, my body actually needs food. But I've kind of I've been in such a high frequency, or I don't know what to call it, but in such an intensely sensitive state that my body has a reaction to food. And so I have to be really careful about what I actually eat. So what I have found, and I think this is why, at least for me, in the past, like, so a lot of empaths have struggle with weight. And I know in the past for me, when I used to not open my sensitivities up for more, I would just hold on to weight all the time, like even whether I was eating or not. Like, and sometimes I would eat for comfort because it felt safe, like it felt grounding, and it felt like it helps pull those sensitivities back in. But now I'm learning to eat. So rather than eat to feel safe, and to shut down the sensitivities, because then it just sort of, the weight would stay on me. Since I've been opening my sensitivities more, I'm starting to lose weight again. And it's not the not eating thing. So what I've been trying to do is allow myself to feel, but keep just, I think it's just keep every so often tuning into my body. And it's like, what do I need? Making sure I drink a lot of water, just having, any snack, anything, just like eating more, actually, like kind of the idea of eating every couple hours, but eating something really sort of light, or whatever really sounds good, actually, but that not just sounds good, but feels good to my sensitivities. And I feel like that's helped me to keep my body a little grounded, but yet I'm still energetically exploring. So I'm still opening my sensitivities up, but I'm staying grounded, and I don't feel that backlash of when I try to eat, then getting sick, because I've opened my sensitivities so much up, and then I don't want to eat anymore. It's kind of like fasting. When you fast, usually the first couple of days, you have detox symptoms, but then like the 4th, 5th, and 6th day, or whatever, how long you're fasting, you usually experience this amazing energy, like clarity of thought and clarity of mind, and so much energy. But then when you go back to eating again, it can be really hard to break a fast and actually feel good. So you have to be super careful. All that to say is, as you are exploring your sensitivities and really allowing yourself to be deeply sensitive, it's important to do it in increments, so you don't have like major detox symptoms. One thing I've noticed as I've been opening my sensitivities more too is that I do have detox symptoms in my physical body, which makes sense because I'm opening up to things I've shut down for a long time. And I feel like along my spinal cord, I can't stop moving. I definitely have had what many call a Kundalini awakening. Like I've read a lot about that, and I always kind of would do meditations for that, but I never had like a legitimate what it felt like until just recently. And I was in a state of really allowing and receiving, and my sensitivities were keenly open, and I had that whole, it was intense, where it literally felt like a snake was going up my back. Like, it was amazing though. It felt really amazing, really, like it felt like trauma was being released off my spine. Like, as it moved through, it was going in these areas where it was like stagnant energy or stuck energy or something. I don't know how to explain it, but definitely my spinal cord feels like it's been plugged into source energy. And since that has happened, I've noticed my sensitivities are even more intense. However, my clarity is way more defined. Whereas before, when I was really sensitive, I felt kind of foggy. Like I always felt like I was in a little bit of a fog because I wasn't clear about myself. I wasn't clear about what I felt. I wasn't clear about what I needed. But now my senses, even my eyesight seems so clear. I feel clear. It's like what I feel in my sensitivities and what I see are syncing. And that used to not be the case. I used to always felt lost. I used to feel so lost in my sensitivities and in the energy that was around me, and so unseen. But the clarity is starting to come more and more and more, and that has come with movement. And so the other thing I just wanted to say before I close this up is, as you're opening your sensitivities, at least what I've found is one of the best things that has helped me is movement, but intuitive movement. So I used to just okay, I have to exercise, and I'm going to exercise for 30 minutes. But as I've opened my sensitivities up, as sensitive as I've become lately, I've realized I just have to do intuitive movement, whatever feels good. So sometimes it's like looks almost like ballet that I'm doing, and other times it's like yoga poses, and other times I'm just like moving my neck and like moving my spine around, and I just stay really sensitive to my body, really in tune to my body, and allow the movement to come through, which I'll be doing another audio about that and talking, maybe a video even, and specifically talking about that, because that's a whole other topic. But I just wanted to share these techniques with you guys that are following this idea of really opening up your sensitivities, because it's so crucial you take care of yourself. All right, I love you. Ciao.